Hello, good morning.
Hello. Hey,
Hi.
Brooke.
Yay. Welcome, welcome. People are just rolling in. Huh. Whoa.
Recording in progress.
Oh, here we go. Good morning, everybody. Hi. Um, Yay. I got some people that I know, and I got some people I don't know. So that's great. Joe, I was laughing so hard. Someone said, "This is the first time I saw Joe with a shirt on." Thank you for meeting us in early
Wintertime.
winter time. You gotta put a shirt on. Hi, you guys. So people are still calling in. I want to make sure I'm recording. I'm recording. The meeting will be recorded and put in the coach's operating system. And I wanted to introduce everybody to Jenny, who's gonna teach us some cool stuff today. It's been a Brooke over here who's here. Give us a wave, Brooke. She looks like she has a twin sister next to her. A Brooke introduced Jenny to me a little bit ago, and I was just so excited to have an actual IFS trainer to just talk to her. Um, as some of you know, IFS training is extremely hard to get into. And she said, "Yeah, sure, I'll meet with your group and I'll share. I'm just into sharing." So thank you, Jenny. And I'll do a little introduction of myself, but meanwhile, we would like to know in a short sentence or few short words, what is it that you would want to get out of this meeting today? And we ask this so that Jenny can quickly adjust the meeting to everybody's needs. So it's actually, um, uh, we're actually asking. So if you have a moment to put in the chat, um, what are you looking to get out of this? Am I asking the right question, Jenny?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thanks, Marta.
Great. Um, Yay. Thanks for starting to how to come home. How to, let's see, how how to come to know my parts. Great. Luke, thanks for being first. Um, so just a few words about me. My name is Marta. Some of you know me. This is actually pretty cool because this is a coming together of my two worlds. Um, I do a weekly meeting. I have a group of incredible people whom I meet with every week. Can you guys give us a wave? Who's my people? Yay, here's my people. Heather, wave. You're my people too. So we've been doing this for a while, and it's been an incredible journey we're all doing together. We call this mental fitness. And yeah, we have this is actually the time slot for mental fitness that we have on Tuesday mornings. And we've done a lot of cool, amazing things together. And currently, we're actually going through um, a, a book called A Way of Mastery, and we've been studying that together. I'm far from saying that I teach it because it's impossible for me to teach it, but I'm there and I hold the discussion and Um, the just we all get to share our experiences. So that's one part of this, and then the other part is coach's operating system, where uh, for those who don't know, it's a platform community of coaches where we all get to learn incredible things from people like Townsend and many others, and many, many others, and pretty much the best place in the world to be if you're a coach. And in the coaches operating system, I have a group, a space called Masters of Badassery, and this is a space, some of you are here. This is a space for coaches that coach in the outdoors, and any kind of nature connection. So we have some of the badassery people here. Masters of Badassery also is my business. I I take clients out for a year at a time, not consecutively, but we go and climb mountains together, and uh, and it's been an incredible evolution of my business, my coaching business. So there's that. Any questions before I hand it off to Jenny? Yeah. All right. And Jenny, did you get some good answers there?
I sure did. So I think we can adjust to, make it what you all need. So
Sweet.
yeah, thanks for doing
Okay.
that.
Let me make sure I know how to make you host. Um, oh, here. Um, and yeah, it, Jenny, um the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Marta, and thanks for inviting me to be here. It's nice to be with all of your faces. I wish we were in person, of course, but I guess this allows us to be from all over the place. Um, So I am Jenny Fiebig. I'm a trainer with the IFS Institute. And I met with Brooke yesterday. We know each other. So it's nice to see you, Brooke. I just got back from New Zealand. We brought the first level one training to New Zealand. So I'm still jet lagged, so I might be mincing my words. I was with clients yesterday and they're like, "What did you say?" So if I say anything that you're like, "Can you repeat that?" Happy to do that. So yeah, I've been with the IFS Institute for about 5 years now. I trained in IFS about I think it was like 2015. So I've been using the model for almost 10 years. And I have found for IFS, like, so I'm a therapist. I'll just say I'm a therapist. I am licensed both in Colorado and in Montana. I live in Durango, Colorado here, and moved down here about 5 years ago from Montana. We were there for about 15 years. So my counseling practice, I tend to work a lot with outdoor trauma. So folks that have been through avalanches or any kind of accident in the mountains or however they explore, our public lands. My goal is to help them work through their trauma so that they can get back into these landscapes. And I really believe that reconnection is so powerful in away from human landscapes. So my goal is to get people back outside so they can reconnect and then protect our lands that need our voice as well. So that's my kind of my heart. And I found that IFS was the most effective model that I've used. I've used CBT, DBT, all these different therapy models. And IFS worked the most for me in my internal system. It helped me to learn how to even work with my parts in the therapy chair. And then it has been the most powerful model for my clients. Um, and a disclaimer, I want to say I don't, IFS isn't the model. Like I'm not a touter of the model. I think it's amazing, and there's also a lot of another amazing models out there. So I like to say that because I think some people can really tout IFS, and that gets really annoying to me. So So yeah, there's that, and I guess the only other thing I'll say in the introduction here, I love to bring people outside as well. So I feel like I'm in good company. I do intensive type therapy with folks that are interested in that. So I take them out, we'll go up into the mountains one day and just sit and do lots of therapy up in the mountains and then come into the office and process and go back out. And then I run IFS-based river trips down Cataract Canyon. So it's just nice to be among people that are, doing amazing things and getting people reconnected outside. So thanks for doing what you're doing. Okay, well, I just want to hear your voice. So it feels we don't have a lot of time, so maybe just say your name and where you're from. That way I can just hear who you are and just hear it straight from you. So I may just call folks just for the ease of time. And Kelly and Brooke are like, uh, you guys are first, so
Yay. Thanks, Jenny. I'm Brooke Edwards. I'm here in Twisp, Washington at my sister's. Well, we now have a sister compound, so we're combining resources I'm building on her land. So I just moved down from Alaska and uh, yeah, I'm super happy to be here.
thanks, Brooke.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for being here, Jenny. I'm Kelly Edwards, also in Twist.
Nice to meet you. All right, Heather Capitan.
Hi, yeah, it's Heather Capitane, which is fine.
Okay,
And I'm in Guelph, Ontario.
okay. Thanks,
Happy to be
Heather.
here.
Thanks. Me too. Eric, I've got you next.
Yeah, I'm Eric Simpson and originally from Washington, but living in Liverpool, England.
Nice. Welcome. Anita.
Hi. So my name is Anita and I live in the Alps in Switzerland.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Malia.
Hi, Malia Fisher. I live in Arlington, Virginia.
Nice. Welcome, Malia. And Heather, Tam?
Heather Sam. I live in Seward, Alaska. I'm actually in Fairbanks right now. But
Nice. Yeah. Nice to have you, Heather. Mallory.
I'm Mallory Connor, and I live in Winthrop, Washington, just up the road from where Kelly and Brooke are right now.
Oh, nice.
And I'm a co-worker of Kelly's.
Great. Nice to have you here, Mallory. Gina.
Hi, I'm Gina Howell, and I'm calling in from Ottawa, Ontario.
Nice. Welcome, Gina. Mark Harris.
Hello, I'm Mark Harris. I live in London, UK,
Nice.
local, and yeah, dialing in from the UK.
Nice. Welcome, Mark. Carl.
Hey everybody. I'm in between spaces now, but most recently Leadville, Colorado.
Nice. Not too far from here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Carl. Sunita.
Hi, I'm Sunita and I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Nice. Great. Welcome. Jerry.
Hi, Jerry Nunn, Northern Indiana.
Nice. Welcome, Jerry. I see a Zoom user. So,
Hi, I'm Bass, and I'm in the French Pyrenees.
nice. Welcome. Nice to meet you. Joe.
Hey, Valina Mai. Joe McGinn here. Right now, I'm in Punalu'u in the district of Ko'olauloa on the island of Oahu in Hawaii, New York.
Beautiful. Thanks, Joe. Luke.
Hi, I'm Luke Harris. I'm originally from Australia, but I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, which is in the southwest of the United States.
Nice. Nice, Luke. Welcome. Not too far from me either. Well, not Australia.
Durango.
Yeah, Durango, yeah. All right, Leaf.
Yeah, Life Emerson, and I'm in Bellingham, Washington.
Nice, welcome. Nice to meet you. And Sarah.
Hi, my name is Sarah. Nice to see you all. I'm originally from Iran and I'm based in Berlin.
Oh, nice, Sarah. Yeah, nice to have you here. So I see a couple of folks. Liz, are you there? Liz Wendling? Or Kate's iPhone, even if you just speak in without having to turn. Oh, there's Liz. Liz, do you want to go real quick and then we'll go to Kate? Okay, all right, we'll go to Kate real quick and then come back to you, Liz. So Kate, are you there?
Yes, I'm Kate McSherry. I am in Grand Junction, Colorado.
Okay, yeah. Nice. Nice to have you. All right, Liz, I
Sorry,
see.
Jenny.
You're good.
I'm troubleshooting a phone issue and Verizon called at the wrong time. I'm from Denver, Colorado.
Okay, okay. Nice, Liz. Nice to have you. Um, and then Diana, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. I'm Diana I'm from Bulgaria, but currently living in Cyprus.
Oh, nice. Great. Oh, I love all of this. Welcome, Diana. And then Monique.
Hi, I only just was able to log in. I'm sorry.
It's okay. We're just saying your name and where you're from.
Monique from Amsterdam in
Great.
the
Okay.
Netherlands.
Great. Well, welcome, Monique. Nice to have you.
Thank you.
Okay. Did I miss anyone? Okay, so we got everyone. Okay. Well, thanks for being here. I love to have such an international group. That just makes my heart sing. So welcome everyone, no matter what time it is in the world where you are. Um, so my hope today, and we'll see where we get to and what your questions are. Please jump in. Like if you do have questions, I'm happy just to stop and answer them. But there's a mixed I guess, mixed group here. Some people don't know much about IFS. Some people maybe have been using it. So those of you that have been using it, we'll do a little bit of a review just to catch everybody up to speed and just to have folks learn about what the model is. And then I wanted to have you kind of feel what it's like to connect with parts. And if I have time, we could even do a short demo if somebody wanted to do that. We'll just kind of see, we'll just see what time we have and where we go.
And if you have question, just raise your hand and then Jenny will be able to fish you out whenever she's in a good place. So just raise your electronic hand.
Yeah, thanks. And if I miss somebody, Marta, if I'm teaching, then just you can just speak into the space too and let me know they're there. All right, well, I'm going to share my screen. I made a quick presentation for us, so bear with me. All right. Can you all, does that come up on the screen? We're good? Okay. So I had a different presentation. I was like, I'm just gonna make a new one. And I'm in love with ravens. I spend a lot of time in the canyons and I feel like ravens are like a power bird. So they had to come onto the presentation today. So IFS has gotten extremely popular over the years, and I'm really sorry it's hard to get into level one trainings. We're trying to work with that, but uh, but there's a lot of information out there about IFS, and I think that I think that folks are getting some good information, And I feel like the best way to learn IFS is actually to feel it, because it is a very, very relational model. And we'll talk a little bit more about the how it works relationally. But yeah, so IFS is it's a model that really kind of deconstructs, I like to say, disconnection. And so the beauty of the model is that it helps us to go inside and start to recognize what's happening within our system, um, and through our internal connection with our parts, with our both, our protectors, our exiles, we then start to find more internal harmony within our own system so that we can then find more connection outside of us with others, and I like to say also with landscape. Um, so 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 IFS works relationally, and it's also a very systemic model. So I think about my days with CBT, and and I do want to say I come from a therapy background, and so if there's anything that I say that you're like, what is that? I'm happy to share more about it. But I studied a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, and I thought it was a beautiful model because it helped us to, find our emotions and what's the story behind the emotion. But it didn't allow for like more of a systemic nature. Whereas IFS, it's like we are comprised of multiple parts. Um, we are not just one thing. So many of you are outdoor folks, so you spend a lot of time in the backcountry. And if you are one static being as you navigate landscape, like let's say you're hiking through grizzly bear territory, and if you're completely blissed out and unaware, you're not going to be vigilant enough to know where do I need to look out for bear sign, or if a bear starts to attack, if you're blissed out and calm, and like you're probably not going to survive that bear attack, and or as opposed to like going into more of that fight flight. So we have to be able to shift our internal systems, to navigate changing environments. So I think a lot of therapy models assume, you know, people are just one static being and that they're not multiple. But IFS really assumes that we are multiple beings, like we have multiple aspects within ourselves. Um, but IFS also believes, and this is the beauty for me, of IFS, that we believe that everybody has a self energy. And we'll talk a little bit about self, but essentially I look at it as your authentic core being. And 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 I believe that everybody has a true authentic self that has the ability to heal their own system. And my job, or my role as a healer, is to help my client or whoever I'm working with, um, find access to that self energy so that they can then be with their parts. So the beauty of that is that that takes the responsibility of me needing to be the expert of their system, because I am not the expert of their system. They are. And they're the only ones that really knows their system. So I'm more of a guide with my client to help them find access to help them find access to self energy to be with their parts. So it's a paradigm shift for a lot of therapy models because it takes the onus and the responsibility off the therapist, and we're more of a team working together. And that, I have some good friends, in Montana, that they've been training in IFS, and one gentleman, he's from the Crow tribe, and I was like, why is it that you like IFS so much? And he was able to say, well, this resonates more with how, my history, or like, um, I won't go into his history, but like, what he was taught from his ancestors, like this way of being is more in line with more ancient and more traditional, older ways of healing, as opposed to more, like current models of therapy. So again, we're in this together, and I am not the expert. And then, but what happens, our goal is to help the client find their self again, and it's a constraint release model. So So what happens is people go through experiences in their life and they experience traumas or uh, neglect, abuse, abandonment, whatever happens to them, or even an avalanche, whatever it is, something happens to them. And their parts then, rather than being in this harmonious way within the system and fluid, they start to take on more extreme roles within the system. And we're going to go through the different parts, and you'll see how that happens a little bit more. But when trauma happens, the system becomes rigid, becomes the perspective starts to shift from fluidity to I have to do this to survive. And so parts then start to take over. They start to constrain the self and take over the self to where this person is now leading their life from their parts as opposed to self energy. And so we have ways of working with these parts that take on these rigid extreme roles to get back into harmony with the self, back in relationship with self energy, to where they can navigate their life from a less burdened way, and a more self-led way. And then, so, as we develop, like I said, our parts, they're more simple in childhood, but as we get older, they become, just like we grow, our parts grow with us. So 5-year-old parts do a great job of helping with 5-year-old self, right? Whereas 5-year-old parts don't do such a great job working with 45-year-old self. So, so our goal is to help update these parts that might be stuck in their traumas to help them recognize how can I shift my role from an extreme traumatized role as a 5-year-old to more of like a fluid 45-year-old adult perspective. So, and our parts are wise. They have so much information for us, and we need our parts in order to survive our world. So we want them to be in connection, updated, and in relationship with self. And lastly, with IFS, like what we believe is that our changes in our internal world will affect changes in the external world. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I'm just going to take this down for just a minute, and I just want to see if there's any questions here or how that's landing so far. Making sense so far? Okay. Okay. Well, we'll keep going here. Oh, okay. Sunita.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Can you define parts a little bit? I guess, can you frame it a little bit more? I feel that I understand it, but I just want to be sure.
Absolutely. We are going to that next.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
so we'll go through that, and then I'm going to check back in with you and see if it lands. Thanks for asking. Okay. So we're going to go back here. So just really quickly, the goals of IFS, just from what I said, we want to liberate the parts, and I'll get into the parts in just a minute. We're going to liberate the parts from their extreme roles to where they're back in harmony with the self, restore trust and self-leadership. And we're going to talk a lot about this unblending. And my hope is you're walking away from this session today, you know what parts are, and you know what unblending means, because unblending is the core skill of IFS, and we're going to get into that. But basically, unblending means that you become aware that you have parts, and that you can be in relationship with your part rather than I am angry. Instead, I have a part that is angry, or I am a perfectionist. I have a part that is a perfectionist. So it's the languaging, and the ability to say, okay, now I have a part that is angry. I wonder what this part is angry about, rather than I'm angry. I don't know why I'm pissed. So it's a way to start to unblend and differentiate so that we can be in connection with our parts. And then again, to bring more self energy to the whole system, to uncover the self energy to allow for more, like less constraint, into more space between parts and self. So So I'll send this to you. I'll have a couple sheets that I'll send to you, Marta, and then you can send out to folks. But I think a lot of people, so our goal when we experience trauma, according to an IFS perspective, we then get burdens, and we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. So we assume shame from that experience. So rather than walking out of that avalanche, a bad thing happened, and I'll deal with it. It's like I am bad because that happened, or because that happened, I am bad. So that starts to burden the system. And so you have a wound, and then we start to build parts and scar tissue around that wound. So our goal in IFS is to get to that burden, to release the burden to where we have more harmony in the system, um, to where we go from a burdened system to an unburdened system. And I show this because I think a lot of people are like, well, parts are bad. We need to just get rid of our parts. But that's not what we're seeking to do because we need our parts in order to survive. So we want to shift from a more burdened system to a more unburdened system because even, we'll talk about firefighters and managers, like these protective parts have really important roles for us and they have really important wisdom for us, like lifelong wisdom that we would have access to. So our goal is to unburden the system to where parts can go back to their harmonious roles. So then, all right, so what are these parts? So we could spend, days on what parts are. But and everyone has their own view of what they are, what they look like. But for me, I just believe that we, we all have multiple personality disorder, like, and that's okay. Because again, we need to have different perspectives within our system in order to navigate our environment. So they're not like little tiny people inside of us. Like I don't see it that way. I just see it as like energy, and I see it as perspective and wisdom. And what that looks like internally, I don't know. But all I know is like we can have connection, have relationship to what these parts are doing for us and with us. So IFS is composed of three different types of parts. So again, we have the self energy, which is, what the healing agent of the body, prana, there's lots of different ways to describe self energy in different religions throughout the world. But I'll just, for the sake of IFS, we'll just say self energy here. Um, so that is the leading healing, non-agenda driven energy in our bodies. And then we have managers and firefighters. And these words, I never use these with clients because they just don't fit for me. I say protective parts, but essentially these are parts within our system that are trying to protect us. And then we have exiles. Um, so so I'm going to go through each one of these parts. But essentially the overview here is that the managers and the firefighters are the parts that kind of like help us navigate the world, and they want to make sure in a burdened system, they don't want these exiles to be released. Because what the exiles are, they're the young ones that hold the burden of the trauma. And so I'm going to go through some examples here to describe that. But we're just going to start with managers here. Well, actually, let me start with the managers, and then we'll go through the other ones and see if you have questions. So with the managers, they are often they're proactive strategy control freaks, essentially. like they're the ones that kind of pick up like what is socially accepted in society. So they want to prevent hurt, they want to prevent rejection, they want to prevent humiliation proactively. So let's we'll have an example here of, let's say there's we'll just say like a 6-year-old child who um, goes to some kind of school, and they come home with all B's on their report card, and we're so proud of that. Like that was maybe like a hard school year for them or whatever. Like, but they had a hard time in school, and they brought their report card home to show their parents, and the parents were like, "What is wrong with you? You didn't get all A's. You need to study harder. You are bad." Essentially, was what they took from that experience. So this young person now believes I am bad, and I have to, I like my parents don't care about me. So that's the exile that holds the burden. I am bad. And so the managers then start to form from this. So I look at the wound, I am bad. And the manager protectors are the scar tissues that starts to build up around that wound. If you're bad, therefore I must be perfect. I must be perfect in order to get perfect grades, or I must proactively hide how bad I am, or minimize all the bad things that are happening and point to what's good. So these managers start to think about what is socially acceptable in the society and how can I adopt that strategy in order to make sure that exile of you are bad is never released into the world again. So that exile is like the capsule that holds the shame, and the managers don't want that to be released. So they work really hard at being perfect, at being, you know, controlling, maybe, I've got some characteristics over here, like striving. I've got some really good striving managers. We tend to all have critics in our systems, and they tend to be more proactive. Like, I'll proactively criticize you so that you don't fail, so that you're not bad. Um, caretaking caretaking is such a controlling. I have so many controlling caretakers. I need you to be okay so that I'm not bad. And therapists and coaches, we are really good at caretaking. So we're going to get into that just in a little bit too. Um, like pleasing parts, minimizing parts, denying parts, passive. There can be numbing and blocking in this. That tends to be more of a firefighter behavior, which we're getting to next. Um, but and oftentimes managers are valued in society. So I have to be really careful. Like when a client walks into my office, oftentimes it's the managers that's bringing them in. I want to get rid of your drinking, and therefore, because drinking part's bad, get rid of that so that we can be perfect. So oftentimes I have to check and make sure, and we're going to talk about blending and unblending, that I'm not blending with managers' goals. Um, so again, we're going to get into unblending here in just a minute. Um, and these manager parts are often the ones that people assume mistake for themselves. I am a perfectionist. I am a critical person. I am I am a caretaker. I take care of others, so they're often the ones that they say, this is me, because again, it's often socially acceptable. And I do want to name, I am coming from a US centric perspective. So often, from in different cultures, these characteristics are going to be a little bit different from US culture. So I am coming from this perspective. So whatever culture you're in, start to think about what are some of the common themes within the culture that these managers can start to pick up. And again, from a US perspective, we tend to be, we call them cultural burden in the US. Like, we are hyper individualistic, we are capitalistic, you know, um, so many so many things that our managers pick up on and have us strive to be. So I'm going to play a video in a little bit too. I want to get through the firefighters. So we'll get to that in just a minute too. But any questions on managers so far? And so, Sunita, is the parts language starting to formulate, or is it still a little vague?
It's formulating. I understand it. Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have managers that are protectors, and we also have the firefighters that are protectors. But they are more of the reactive protectors in our system. So these are the parts that, and I'm going to say as from a healer, like these are the parts that get people in trouble, and these are the parts that healers are often afraid of and want to get rid of. So these parts take on strategies like addiction, rage, uh, dissociation, like fogging out, blanking out, numbing out. Self-injury can be part of this, and when I say addiction, both substance and process addiction, um, avoidance, panic, all the things that we we don't want to associate with. Like we don't often go into the world and be like, I am a drinker. Like, but like most of us are like, I would rather be a perfectionist than a drinker. So these are the behaviors that can induce shame and be really shamed in the system. So so these firefighters, they do not want the exile, the I'm bad exile down here to be released into the world. And oftentimes firefighters are like, those managers are such control freaks. They're not doing their job well. So I need to come in and save the day. I'm going to get them so drunk that they can't feel. And we are doing a really good job because I'm bad is not going out into the world. So they really see that that perfectionist over there is working, not doing their job. It's working way too hard and it's causing harm on the system. So the firefighter comes in and tries to numb out not only the I am bad, but they try to numb out the perfectionism. So oftentimes firefighters and managers are in what we call polarization. And when people get stuck, they're often in polarization between parts. Um, so So again, let me go back to the firefighters here. So they're reactive. They are like teenagers or even like, like, and I apologize if any of you are firefighters. I work with firefighters and I never use this term with first responders. But like you think about actual firefighters that put out burning buildings, they're not coming into a burning building and saving grandma's china and, gently putting things away. They want to put out that fire and they will do whatever destruction needs to happen in order to put out that fire. And so these behaviors are also doing the same thing. They are putting out the fire, and these firefighters do not usually, or I'm going to say burdened firefighters often don't know the impact of what is happening under the system. So they want to break from that stress that those control freaks over there, those managers are adding to the system. They do not believe exiles can be tolerated or burdened exiles can be tolerated. And often these firefighters earn, we call the DSM, which is the diagnostics manual for therapy. So they're the ones that often earn like, these diagnoses that get people hospitalized. Suicidal ideation is absolutely a firefighter. Um, and again, this is where IFS was so helpful for me because I was getting stuck in therapy with my clients because I was blending with their managers. And all of my work was manager driven. And so all these firefighters that were coming up, I believed we needed to get rid of them too. So I was stuck. My clients weren't healing because I was not listening to what these firefighters were trying to do for the system. So I was not in balance with my clients or with myself. So oftentimes healers blend with managers and they try to get rid of firefighters. Um, they can be very scary for therapists or healers, coaches, they can be mild to extremely life-threatening. Um, and here I want to make the point that we are not enabling the firefighter behavior. I'm not saying, oh, I'm so glad you're going home to drink a 30 pack of beer tonight. That's great. I'm saying I get that you want to drink that 30 pack. And I want to know what is your hope in having this person drink that 30 pack of beer tonight? Tell me a little bit more. What are you afraid will happen if they don't? So I want to get in relationship with this firefighter that has dangerous behavior to say, what is your hope in that? And so I'm not saying that's okay. I can see why you want to do that. And I see that you're trying to take the pain out of the system. Even with suicidal ideation, like I want to know, like I hear that there's so much pain in the system, and your hope in taking their life is to end the pain. And what if we could do that in a different way? Um, so we're negotiating and honoring of the firefighter rather than shaming the firefighter. I think this is where, because IFS is welcoming of firefighters, I think that that can be really scary for some healers because it's like, what do you mean you're okay with the suicidal part? But if I'm not okay or in relationship with that suicidal part, it will find whatever way it will do to end that person's life, and it will not talk to me, and it will not budge, or even drinking. They are going to sneak. They are going to find some way around, my safety plan because that safety plan was made with a manager. So I look at them as the unsung heroes of the system, that they are trying to do their best. And burdened firefighters can be dangerous, but unburdened firefighters can bring us so much joy and creativity in our life. So we want to work to get these firefighters unburdened to where they can be um, healthy reactive parts. Rather than drinking a whole bottle of wine, we could just drink a half glass of wine or a glass of wine. Or, rather than drinking, why don't we just go for a walk with your dog? So our goal is to negotiate with these guys and eventually get them to release their role. So I'm going to stop here and we're going to go to exiles, but I just want to see any questions about the protective system. Yeah, Anita.
So I was wondering, does there always need to be a firefighter when a manager is in place? Or can there be unburdened firefighter and a manager in place?
Yeah, we we are never without our parts. So they're always going to be there. And they're not always in polarization. But again, the more traumatized the system, the more polarized it's going to be. Or the more traumatized the system, the faster the parts are within the system. So it doesn't necessarily mean that when you have a manager, it's often polarized with a firefighter, but it often is. It just kind of depends upon the system that you're working. The biggest thing is don't go in assuming, and this is for myself and everybody. I don't go in with my client assuming I know what's happening. My goal is just to ask. So let's say a manager, you're working with a perfectionist manager, and if I assume there's a firefighter, then I'm going to be assuming to go to that firefighter without really getting to know that manager and asking, are you in polarization with something else? So I'm taking the onus off of myself to just ask the system because the system knows. I trust that the system knows. Does that make any sense, Anita?
Yeah, it does. It does. I was just looking at the list that you had there. The firefighters could be all kind of things that are destructive. These were just some more obvious example, but anything that's destructive, where the managers look like less destructive and the firefighters are more destructive, whatever shape or form they come. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, yeah, you could say that for sure. Like fire, drinking a 30 pack of beer is probably a lot more destructive than, being perfect on your studies, right? Like, and
Right.
and I
In the long run, debatable, but yes. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Got
totally
it.
debatable. That's a good point.
That was helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So 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 we're going to go through the six F's in a minute too, and the six F's is a strategy, a tool set that we use in IFS to get to know these managers. So we have a way of helping us be in relationship with these parts and helping the client be in relationship with these parts. So the goal for me, we're going to get to the unblending after the exiles, but the goal for me, it's like I want myself to be in relationship with the client's self so that their self can be in relationship with their parts. So that's the goal. Because if I'm doing therapy from parts to my client's parts, we may be doing some therapy, but we're not we're going to get stuck in some ways. Or, I may be doing therapy from myself directly to their parts because they don't have enough self energy in their system yet. And this is where unblending comes in. But so again, I want my self energy to be in connection with my client's self energy so that they can be in relationship with these protector parts. So these are our protectors, and I call them loyal soldiers. I really honor them, and I really want my clients to feel like they're honored in their system as well. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on exiles because we can really go down rabbit holes with exiles. But essentially, if you look at a wound, I like to use the wound metaphor because I think our physical systems are similar to our internal emotional systems. So if somebody goes through an avalanche and they go through that avalanche, and let's say that experience was really hard for them. They lost somebody in that avalanche. So that is their wounding. And they walk away from that avalanche saying, I am bad. And again, this is somebody else can walk away from an avalanche and not hold the shame about it to say bad things happened. So they don't necessarily develop PTSD, but this person did. Let's say that they went through that avalanche. I am bad. I shouldn't be alive. My partner should be alive. So the I am bad is the wounding. And then again, we start to build up the scar tissue around that wounding. So the managers and the firefighters start to take over as the scar tissue here. But the exile here is the one that holds the burden of the trauma. So, oops, let's go back there. So they are the young ones, and they're often young. Like I use examples of, I mean, you can go through an avalanche or a car accident and develop PTSD, but oftentimes things happen even before that avalanche that can drive PTSD, and we won't go down that rabbit hole. But if you have questions about that, I can talk to you about it. But often they're young, and the hope of when we're young children, our natural needs and qualities are to be safe, to be joyful, to be nurtured. Some qualities are curiosity, energetic, playfulness, innocence, sensitive. We want to be heard and valued and seen and loved. These are what children need in order to grow and to develop. When they don't get these needs, then they start to assume what's wrong with me. So again, you think about a parent that might be so stressed or overwhelmed, and they don't have the time to really nurture and attend to this young one. And you think about a child, if they don't have value or worth with their parent, they could die because human children we need our parents to survive in the world. So if we don't have worth or value, then we try to do something about that to make sure we have worth and value so that we're not left alone on, the plains of Montana to be attacked by the grizzly bear because we don't have parents to take care of us. So, and our unburdened exiles bring this joy, bring this, like, I love having 5-year-old joy in my system as a 45-year-old because it helps me to play in the world. So these are the natural needs and the qualities of young parts that we're young ones that we want to uncover. But right now in a burdened system, the joy, the curiosity, the playfulness is covered up by the burden of shame. So the young one believes I am bad. So they're capsules of pain that are locked away. Um, and so, oftentimes they feel hopeless, they feel worthless. There might be a sense of like horror, like HORROR. I don't know why I can't say that word very well. But essentially, these are the core beliefs that they hold about themselves, rather than, I am free to play. I am bad if I play. Or, I am worthless to my parent, or I have no value to the world. I am not good enough. So these moral meanings are the burdens that they're believing about themselves, and they hold that. And so then the protectors really work to prevent that from coming out into the world. So that's IFS in a nutshell. um, and and I think that like working with protectors is so important. So this is something that I think is important to go over. So with managers, we're going to get to unblending, but the unblending question is, how do you feel towards? So let's say that I have a client in my office and they're coming in, they're like, I am just so out of control with my drinking. I just need to get rid of that, and so that I can be, a perfect, I don't know, like I want to run 100 milers. So if I drink, then I can't achieve my goal. So I want to be able to achieve my goal. So this manager is the perfectionist manager that is getting rid of the drinking firefighter. So I need to ask myself, how do I feel towards this perfectionist? Maybe it's, I believe it. I believe that part. And if I'm saying I believe what a part believes, oftentimes that means I'm blended with that part. So whereas qualities of self, and this is
Jenny, just a question.
Sure.
You as a therapist have to ask yourself, how do you feel towards?
Yes.
This is not a question you're asking your client.
Yes, good question. Really good question. I'm asking myself that before I'm even going to that manager. How do I feel towards that part? And self qualities are their curiosity, compassion. Oh, now I should have written these down. Let me grab them. There's 8 C's and 5 P's of IFS, and I did not put them in there. But curiosity, compassion, and I'll write them down for you so I don't have to look it up in the book. But for me,
Connection.
Thank you, Luke. Yeah. Um, yeah, there's a lot more, but my dissociator is coming in right now. But my access into self energy is often compassion and curiosity and perspective. So if I'm feeling scared of a part, if I am feeling angry with a part, if I'm feeling hopeless with a part, then I'm in parts. So that question, how do I feel towards, is a parts indicator not only for me, but it's also for my client. So I will ask my client that eventually, but first I'm asking myself, how do I feel towards this part? And if I can have enough, wow, I feel really compassionate for this perfectionist because it's working so hard for this person. And um or like I'm really curious as to why it's had to work so hard. So if I can access some self energy in my system, then I know it's like, okay, I can really get curious with this part. So now I'm asking the client how it feels towards, and we're going to go through the 6 steps. So I'm going to go through these steps with you. But essentially I'm using a tool set to help not only myself, but also my client start to build relationship with this manager. And the goal, we want these managers to feel heard, not judged, to be respected, to be considered, included and appreciated. And again, for me, holding that word, it's a loyal soldier. And and so so we're getting to know this character. And I think it's important also to say that um, parts are not just defined by what their role is. So the perfectionist is a whole entity itself. Like it has a history, it has a story, it has a whole belief system. And I want to get to know that. If I look at it as just a perfectionist, then I am missing this whole rich relationship with this part. So I want to have myself get to know this entity, this part, and I want my client to get to know this part so they can really see the defined character. Because again, what we're trying to do is to get permission from these managers that are built up around this wounding, this exile, to give me the permission to go to the wounding, to heal the wounding. Because a lot of therapies bypass the scar tissue and go immediately to the wound. And then there's backlash because that scar tissue is like, you didn't honor what I do for this system. So we really want to honor and appreciate and get to know these really important parts so that we can get to that exile, release it to where these parts, these managers and firefighters don't have to do their role in an extreme way. It's so if we can release the I'm bad, then they're not like, I'm bad, therefore I must be perfect. It's more like I am capable and I can help you be perfect in this. So they're not doing it from shame, they're doing it from confidence, from self energy, or like a self-led perspective. Um, so, so just briefly working with firefighters, it's similar. Like you want to get to know their story, you want to get to know their whole character. So again, I'm asking myself, how do I feel towards this drinking part? And if I want to shame it, or if I'm afraid of it, or even a suicidal part, like I need to work with my system to hold curiosity towards this part because I want to hear. I want to hear from it. Um, and oftentimes, like with the dissociative part, many of us have lots of dissociation. And I start with dissociation to say, I am so appreciative of what you do for this client. Like if the grizzly bear is attacking me, I don't want to feel that either. So thank you for wiping them out. I see how hard you're working. So if you can honor them, oftentimes they're like, ooh, that feels really good. I've never been thanked for what I do. I'm always hated. Let me tell you more about myself. So if you can really lean in with appreciation, they often share more. So really want to, we don't want to get into a power struggle with either managers or firefighters, but especially firefighters, because they are often in power struggles with managers. We don't want to take sides of the managers. We don't want to shame these firefighters. And again, these parts, these firefighters are not defined by the behavior they're using. They are not just a drinking part. They have a whole story behind it. All right. So unblending, again, this is the core skill in IFS. So if you walk away from this experience and this is all you take from it, this is great. Because again, unblending, it starts with you in the healing chair. So indications, well, the unblending, it's internal differentiation. So rather than coming from, and I'll just use myself as an example, like if I am a caretaking person in the therapy chair, then I am doing therapy from a caretaking part. And again, my caretaker, it's belief, I need to make you okay so that I'm okay. As opposed to, I I care about you and I want to know about you and I'm okay. I don't need you to be any different than what you are in order for me to be okay with you. So I'm asking myself all the time with each part that's coming up with my clients or whoever I'm working with, how do I feel towards this part? How do I feel towards this part? And again, if it's anything other than the self-energy qualities, which I will get those to you guys, then I know that I'm in a part. And I'm not bad for being in a part. I am in a part. And then I can know I'm doing therapy from a caretaking place, um, as opposed to this is all of me. So I can ask my caretaker, hey, can you give me just a little bit of space to where I can get some curiosity towards this person, as opposed to saying, I need you to change. And so it's internal differentiation to where my self-energy can be more with their part. So that differentiation increases my internal attachment and connection, so that I can be with my client in a differentiated way. So we won't get into the nervous system stuff, but basically nervous systems are contagious. So if I'm doing therapy from a nervous system place, it's going to pass to my client. But self-energy begets self-energy. Um, so some of you asked, how do I know if I'm in parts? And we in IFS, I believe our body is a temple for our parts. Not only is it a temple for our self-energy, but our self-energy can extend way beyond our bodies. But parts really use our bodies, to let us know that they're there. So when I'm checking in with myself, I'm asking even before my client walks in the door, how do I feel towards this person even walking in the door? And I'm asking, I'm checking in, I'm nervous. Okay, how do I know I'm nervous? Well, there's like this tension in my chest and like I can just feel this right here. So that's how I know I'm in a part. When I'm with my clients or no, even anywhere that even teaching, um, my voice tone, like, what is the quality of my voice? And for me, it's like when I'm calm, curious, compassionate, when I'm more in self-energy, there's like a flow state for me. And like when I'm on my snowboard in deep powder, it's like everything is in connection and fluid. Whereas when I'm in parts, my body's more rigid. So if my body tension, if my jaw, my shoulders, my forehead, if they're not, are they contracted or are they soft? What is my posture? What is my movement? Am I relaxed or am I repetitive? Am I spinning my pen the whole time? My breathing indicates if I'm in parts, my eye gaze. So everything about me and my body, I'm checking in to see if I'm in parts. And for me, dissociation, I have huge dissociative parts. And so if I can't feel myself, which I didn't feel for many, many years, then the lack of feeling is a part. Because again, when I'm more in self-energy, I feel fluid. I feel like a sense of calm. That's not a lack of feeling. And I can be angry. Self-led anger is important. Self-led fear is important, right? Um, but so it doesn't mean I'm just like blissed out and calm all the time. But yeah, if I'm not feeling, that means I'm in a part. So for you all, I really encourage you, just to start to check in throughout your day and just to be aware, like, what is my body feeling like? Or what's the difference between when I feel curious and compassionate versus when I feel afraid? So just kind of playing with your body and noticing your indicators to where you're more in parts or not. So I'm just going to pause here before we go to the 6 Fs and just see if there's any questions and just see how this is all landing for you all. There's so much to go over, and I like it's hard to narrow it down to an hour and 15 minutes.
I wanted to just express my appreciation for you bringing our attention to checking with ourselves at all times. This is an incredible, for us coaches, an incredible reminder to use as a skill, and um, I'm going over in my head numerous coaching session back and going, oh, where was I? So thank you.
And and I still do therapy from parts. because sometimes I get taken over. Like if I'm working with somebody that has a similar history to myself or family of origin stuff, I'm in parts. And that does not mean I'm bad.
What do you
So
do then?
yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, I want to say the goal is not to be in self, because that languaging is actually more weaponizing if you think about it. If you're not in self, you're bad. Or if you're in parts, you're bad. So so we really, and in level one trainings, people we I my goal is to have people walk away not to say I need to be in self and I need my clients to be in self. But and nobody is 100% in self. I think that's impossible because we are humans and we live around other humans. If we are, living as a hermit, on a mountain all by ourselves for the rest of our lives, maybe you could achieve that if your needs are taken care of, but I don't know. So we are never 100% in self. But if you think about it, not as a either or as like think of it as a continuum. Am I more in self or am I less in self right now? Is my client more in self or are they less in self? So for me, when I'm doing therapy, let's say I'm getting activated. Let's say I have a client with a really strong suicidal part, and it is not giving up its role, and I'm starting to get scared. I can check in with my fear to say, okay, and I'm not saying this to my client, I'm saying it to myself. Okay, I recognize how do I feel towards the suicidal part? I'm scared. Okay. Um, what am I so afraid will happen? I'm afraid they're going to kill themselves. Absolutely. That is really scary. And I don't want this person to end their life. So I can hold my fear and I'm asking my fear rather than taking up um, all of my heart, because I feel like my heart energy is where I can really feel compassion towards or curiosity towards my client. Rather than taking up all of my heart, I'm going to honor my fear. And can you just take up half of my heart? To where I can use the other half of my heart to hold curiosity and compassion towards this client. Or let's say, yeah, go for it, Marta.
What's the language you would use with a client? Would you
Mhm.
be like, "Hey, just hold on, I'm gonna clean some stuff up." Like, what
Yeah.
would you, how would you do it?
I used to say, hey, I'm recognizing I'm in a part and I want to make sure that I've got enough self energy for you, or that I'm right here for you, so I'm not leading you with my part. Um, it depends upon my client. Like if they're like a needy, very attached to me, and if I were to say I'm in a part and that would activate their shame, I'm not going to say that. I might just be like, hey, let me just take a breath here. I just want to just check in, like I might just say, hey, I need a pause. And my clients, I talk to them all the time. I'm like, oh, I don't like how I asked that question. I'm going to ask it in a different way. So my clients are used to me like, I messed up, like, and I can offer repair. But they're used to me pausing. They're like, hey, hold on, let me just, check in. Um, so again, it just kind of depends upon the presentation of the person you're working with. If they can handle, oh, I recognize that you're in a part, or sometimes my clients call out, "Are you in a part right now?" I'm like, "Shit, like maybe I should check him." Um, or if my client is getting more and more activated, I need to see what's happening for me. So yeah, I'll ask for the pause and then I'll check in with my fear. Can you give me just enough space to where I can have some compassion or curiosity towards this person? Um, or if I'm working with an angry couple and they're raging at each other, like that's activating, my little exiles. And it's like, okay, you are not the parent, little 5-year-old. I'm the therapist and I can be the parent in this situation. So can you go play on the beach for a little bit? You don't need to be here. You don't need to be doing therapy here. So, but it takes, I really encourage you all, if you have access to some kind of IFS therapy, it really takes working on your system to where when you're in the healing chair, that it's faster and easier to start to know when you're in parts. I really encourage you all, even if you practice it on each other, just getting to know parts. So, and we spend a whole week on therapist parts in trainings, so you're getting the crash course here. But the biggest takeaway for you to ask yourself, how am I feeling towards? And what is my body feeling like? What are the somatic indications that I could be in a part? So I'm going to drop, well, any other questions here? I want to just make sure that's landing. Okay, I'm gonna drop something in the chat if I have access to it. Let me see if I have it on this computer. Bear with me for just a second. I don't. I'm just gonna go through the 6 Fs real quick, and again, I'll send this to you, Marta, the whole sheet of the 6 Fs, just so you all can have more structure with how to start working with parts, whether it's yourself. But I'll walk you through maybe a part, the 6 Fs here. Let me pull that up. Um, so there's a whole process of working with protectors, and there's a whole process of working with exiles. We're not going to get to the exile process because we don't have time for that, and we really we need to honor that time for them. But working with a protector, we have we're going to find the part. So let's say we'll just stay with that perfectionist part. So let's say, somebody walks into your office and, they're like, I am a perfectionist. It's like, okay, great. So already I know there's a part. And I'm not calling out the parts in my clients. Um, and I really encourage you all, actually, this is really important to say this. Like when you're with your partners or, your family or your kids, don't call out parts in them. Be like, oh, you're in an angry part right now. Like you need to calm down. So we do not call out parts in other people because it will not only piss them off, but it's like you're outing them based upon your own judgments. So, I'm helping guide my clients to their parts. So let's say this client walks in and they're like, I'm a perfectionist. So I'm guiding them to recognizing, okay, there's a part of you that is a perfectionist. So would you like to get to know this perfectionist part? And so there's a whole process I'm contracting, but we're contracting to find the target part in the session. So we find this target part, which is the perfectionist. So now we want to find the part. Um, so so oftentimes, like I said, parts are in our bodies somewhere, and some clients have more access to their bodies. Some clients are like so dissociated they can't find it. But I'm gonna ask my client, say more about how, like when you're perfectioning, what does that feel like in your body? How do you know you're perfectioning? Well, I'm just really tense and I just focus, I'm just so obsessed on getting that thing right. Okay, so you're upset, there's like an obsession in your head and there's like a tension in your body. All right, so let's just kind of check in with that tension in your body and that obsession in your head. Does that feel like the same energy? So we're finding where the part is in the body, and then we're starting to focus on it. Well, actually, that obsessing in my head is a little bit different than the tension energy. Okay, all right, great. So I wonder if that obsession part, if it would be willing to give us just a little bit of space so we can stay with this perfection part. Yeah, and okay. So we're staying with that. Okay, so say more about this tension in your body. How big is it? How small is it? Like, does it extend outside of your body? Yeah, it's like my whole lower body, and it just really wants me to be perfect, and like my hands tense up, and okay, great. So we found where it is, and we started to focus on it. So it starts to take up all of your body. And maybe say, are there words, are there images, are there sensations that go along with this tension? As I really hear you say that you clench your hands. Um, yeah, it's just saying be perfect, be perfect. You got to get perfect grades in this test, and you just have to be perfect. You got to get straight A's on this test. Okay, got it. So it's really coming in with this tense energy. Its words are, you've got to be perfect. You've got to get the perfect scores on this test. Got it. So let's say, Bob, how do you feel towards So we're starting to focus on it now, like this. So this person has a grasp of what this part is kind of feeling like or looking like. Um, and I want to say too, parts can be images, they can be sensations, they can be words, they can be stories. They don't have to just be verbal. So we work with a lot of pre-verbal parts in IFS, and you don't come out of the womb speaking, but you come out feeling. So oftentimes feelings are ways of finding a part. Um, you know, like terror could be a pre-verbal part. But I just like to say there's lots of different ways that parts use to communicate. But this one comes in with tension, with the words, I've got to be perfect. So then I'm asking, how do you feel towards? So this is the unblending question for my client. And oftentimes they hate the part or they don't like the part. So I have to work with whatever part is there to get it to step back so that we can stay with this target part. And there's a whole process with that. We don't have time to go through that. But, the block, if there's a part blocking self energy, the how do you feel towards unblending question from the self connecting with the part, then I have to work with that block to get it to shift to where we can have self energy towards the part. But just for the sake of time, we'll just say, I hate the perfectionist to step back. Now I'm curious towards my perfectionist part. Great. So can that perfectionist part feel that curiosity coming from you? So I'm developing self to part and part to self relationship. It is not one way. So we need to honor our parts. Do they feel that energy coming from the self? How do you feel towards? I feel compassionate towards it. Can the perfectionist feel the compassion coming from you? Yes, it can. Great. Can it tell you more about what it does? So we're fleshing out and befriending the story of the part. We're now getting to know the character development. And oftentimes I spend a lot of time here just befriending, listening to the story. Tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. So we're hearing the history, and the sheet that I'll give you will have some different befriending questions. And then the last F that we're looking at is the fear of the part. What are you afraid will happen if you are not perfect? So this is the jump between the protector to the exile. So if I'm not perfect, I will be a complete failure. I will fail, and then I'll be bad. Got it. So if you're not perfect, then you're going to fail. And if you fail, you're bad. So this is the jump to the exile. This is the question that shows me who they're protecting. And there's a whole set of negotiation that we do to work with the fear of the protector to let us go to that exile eventually. But we will not, and I let all the protectors know, I will not go to that exile without your permission. And I honor that and respect that, because there will be backlash if we don't do that. So again, we spend a whole week on this. This is just a quick crash course here. I'll talk about wilderness in a second, but I just want to see how that's landing. And I know we've got like 5 minutes here, so. I'm throwing a lot at you. So again, the takeaway, how do you feel towards that's the money question, because that's going to be the question that's helping you, because you are first, because you're the helper here. So you've got to work with your system first before you go to your client system, just so you can be aware what part am I in? And if you start to notice your own parts, then you can bring that to your own healing and, work with that in your healing, to where now it's like, I know when I'm doing therapy from caretaking parts and I can get them to give me enough space. But for years I was doing therapy from caretaking parts. Then I became aware I was doing therapy from caretaking parts. And now I can be with my caretaking parts and have them be my buddies in therapy. So I'm now in relationship with them and listening to their wisdom. Anita.
Just had another question while you were, talking. Is it ever, well, maybe I shouldn't start like that, but if somebody comes in, and right now we looked at it as like the perfectionist aspect of something that is not helping. Do clients ever come in and go like, well, I like that part about
Oh,
me?
yeah. Oh, yeah. They,
Yeah. And so do you do the same? Like, because they may just be like, well, I love it. Look at me, right? Like, is it different, the 6Fs, based on that kind of response?
So there are different ways of doing IFS. So oftentimes what you'll see in IFS is called insight. So that's where my self energy is talking to their self energy, and their self energy is asking the question to the part. But if that part is so blended, I can't get them to unblend. I am a perfectionist. I love this part. Or it's not even a part. I love being, this helps me survive. Then I'm shifting to more direct access. And I'm using the 6Fs, and myself is talking directly to the part. And they may not know that I'm using IFS with them. So it looks like talk therapy, but I'm doing the 6Fs to start to help them unblend, to recognize that is not all of you. And, again, we spend a whole day on direct access and how to use it. But so it's like, so tell me then, okay, so you love being a perfectionist or being perfect. Like, tell me more, like when you're feeling in that perfection, energy, what does that feel like in your body? Well, I'm jazzed. Okay, got it. So tell me more, like, does it take up all of your body, just half of your body? It takes up half of my body. Okay, great. Yeah. So, how long have you been feeling that? So I'm using the 6Fs from a direct way. And then eventually getting them to recognize, oh, I'm not always a perfectionist. Sometimes I'm angry. Okay, what's the difference between when you're angry and when you're perfect? Oh, got it. So we're then using the body to help them recognize that they're not always in a perfectionist part. So it's a whole strategy, but it's a good question. Really good question.
Yeah. There's so much more, but we don't have
I
time.
know.
But
An
thank
hour and a
you.
half is not long enough.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Luke.
Yeah, thanks so much for this. This is super helpful. My question is around like the judgmental part, like the judge or the person the part that's overly critical. Is that, do you deal with that the same way, or is it a manager or a firefighter, or which one is it?
So I'm going to name the parts that most healers are afraid of are critics, major dissociators, I don't know parts, and rage. So critics can be very strong, and they often can be the most powerful part in a system. And so I'm first checking in, how do I feel towards their critic? And if I feel hopeless or afraid of that critic, I need to do my work. And so I'm asking my hopelessness and my fear, can you give me enough space to where I can be curious towards this critic? So I know this critic is working so hard to criticize this person so that they don't appear like a failure. The exile isn't exposed to the world. So I'm using the same 6Fs to get to know this critic. So what is your hope in criticizing this person? What is and this is a strategy, but oftentimes I ask, when you look at Bob, who do you see? I see this worthless piece of shit. Got it. So he's seeing a part of Bob. He is not seeing Bob's self-energy. So I'm going to get that worthless piece of shit part to maybe take up half of Bob's energy, to where, okay, so that's a part of Bob. Critic. Now, when you look at Bob with that part step back, how do you feel towards Bob, or what do you notice about Bob? Oh, he looks different. So we're trying to unblend the part that it's criticizing to where it can be in connection with their self energy, and then the self can then work with the part it's criticizing. But oftentimes the critic is criticizing parts of the client. And so you've got to unblend those parts that it's criticizing. But we can spend a whole day on that, Luke. So, but again, critics, dissociators, rage, and I don't know parts are often the most scary ones for people. Kelly and Brooke.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I noticed it's sort of to capitalize on Life's question in the chat of like how can one self-guide oneself with IFS, and kind of like a what's a because when I read that question, I was like, I don't like I feel like this whole talk was so overwhelming and like, oh my God, I really need somebody to guide me through it. And so kind of both and is like, where would we start to self-guide and like what are good next steps? Because it does seem to me like for myself that I'm going to need help with this because I feel like the self-guiding would just like the protectors and the managers and the firefighters were like, oh yeah, we got this. Like, I'm going to be in charge of this. And the firefighters are like, yep, we know how to do this. And so it's almost like I need the Jenny Fiebigs of the world to be like, okay, that's just one piece. You know, almost like the mirrored person outside. So I guess my question is both Life's question is like, where do we begin on the self-guided journey? And then part B is like, how essential is it to have somebody else to get to those?
Absolutely. Yeah, great question, because not everyone has access to IFS therapy. So for me, what I was doing was checking my body. So if I like, and I'm not always aware. So maybe using the bigger emotions like anger and fear. So how do I know I'm afraid? Okay, I'm using the 6 Fs on myself. How do I know I'm afraid? Well, I feel fear in my body right here. And what is the fear focused on? It's focused on if you go in that class 4 rapid, you're going to die. Got it. Thank you, fear. Like, I appreciate you. And this is the most important. How do you feel towards your fear? And so if it's like, I hate it, I want it to go away, there's already another part. So you've already mapped out 2 parts here. So that question, let me find it, let me focus on it. How do I feel towards will often bring you to another part. So now you've got 2 parts to be aware of. And just keep asking yourself, how do I feel towards it? And more parts are going to come up. But so even just being aware of the parts, like even 2 parts, that's huge. And that is good work. And yes, I needed like years of therapy to like really get to where I am. And I think that had I even just done that with in my therapy chair, that's beautiful. So checking in with your body, how do I feel towards will bring more parts. And I'll get you the qualities of self energy too, because that can help.
Yeah, so just a couple of things. I put a link in here if you guys want to get things from Jenny, sign up there and I'll send you stuff. Jenny, is there anything you can recommend for people to start? Is there a book? Is there a video? Or something else that and then what do you do for people? If you can tell us that.
Yeah. So No Bad Parts is a really good one that came out and it's very easy to read. Yep, there we go. Luke's got it there. And you can go online. There's all sorts of like workbooks and things on the IFS website. I would go to the IFS website. There's so much writing about IFS that's not from IFS. So go there and look up some resources. There's a great parts meditation book by Martha Sweezy, or I think no, I forget who it is, but Parts Meditation is a great book to start to meditate on your own parts. And yeah, I know people have to go, so thank you for being here. But if you want consultation, I offer consultation for folks. So feel free to email me or Marta and we can figure out a consultation group. Or if you want an intensive experience, like you can just book a 3-hour session or a 5-hour session and we can really do a deep dive into your system. So I do intensives to try to open up access to IFS as opposed to regular therapy. So
And your website is your name, right?
jennyfiebig.com. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I had 5 more hours with you all. It's not long enough. So, but thanks for being here and email any questions you have or email Marta and she can send it to me. And thank you. I appreciate you all.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Take care, you guys.
Thank you so much.
That was
Thank
great.
you.
Just for everyone to know, I'm about to interview Jenny for the Avalanche Hour podcast, and it will come out in March. But she'll be sharing more of these things and how it pertains to perhaps accidents in the outdoor world, if that is curious to you. So,
Yay. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that, Brooke.
thank you so much. That was incredible.
Yeah, it's a massive download. Awesome.
Thanks for sharing all your resources and just your wisdom. Thank you.
Aw, thanks. Nice to meet you too, Kelly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else you need, Marta, from me or?
I'm just gonna